Okay, what I'm going to talk about today is my view and experience of playing Silent Hill 2, the remake. Um, I came to this game rather late for a Silent Hill 2 fan. The reason why is because I've had bad experiences in buying games fresh off the press, they're full of bugs, and you've got to wait for patches, and you don't get the peak experience until the developer has let it run its course in the real world for however many months, and then you got something solid. You know what I'm talking about. Plus, I didn't have the 50 quid or whatever it cost, 40 quid, I can't remember at the time. So it was something it was on the back burner. So what do I think? First off, I was totally wrong. What do I mean by that? I made a prediction video before the game was released saying that I had a very bad feeling that the game was going to fail. If I'll put a link to that vid up here. If it would have failed if Konami and the sub-developer screwed with the fundamental plot of the original. And that, of course, is that James killed his wife. And his whole story is basically him being confronted by this and coming to terms with it. Spoiler alert. They didn't screw with that at all. They had the sense to leave the foundation alone. And came up with what I think is probably almost an exemplary study in a remake. They took everything that was good and valid of the original game, used that as the grounding, the structure, the formula to let their new creative ideas, new technologies, new methods come forward and fly off the back of that grounding. And I think they did very well. They what worked, they kept. What was underdeveloped, they developed. What didn't work, so famously the fight with Eddie is pretty ropey in the original. I seem to recall there's a story that Konami had a server crash, or they lost a lot of memory and they had to rebuild it. They didn't have enough time, so it was rushed. Fair enough, but they took the limitations of the first game and exceeded them. So a classic limitation was the fact that the PS2 games back then were, relative to modern gaming standards, quite short. You can get 30 hours of gameplay out of that disc because they just didn't have the memory. Visually, we all expected it would look very, very nice. In fact, it looked better than the trailers, in my opinion. The shadow, the lighting, the art design with the color palette, the fog was good. Soundtrack. Again, they brought back the original composer and really pushed the envelope with that one. So, in terms of a remake, highly successful. Can't say anything about that. My favourite level, I think, probably the Labyrinth, because for me, that's you really get a sense that reality itself is breaking down. You've gone so deep and underground, and some people theorize that you're going into the sort of base, subconscious kind of sort of this psychomorphic, psychogenic reality that Silent Hill is, and reality is collapsing around James, and it's becoming disjointed, and it's the creepiest, weirdest kind of area, and you have that surreal thing where there's that wall of arms, which when you get the great knife, you walk through it, and that bizarre house that you reorientate, and it aligns you with different sub levels and such. That was really good. Hospital, great. The apartment blocks, great. Hotel, great. Running around, in the town at night, great. The part I thought that didn't quite work was the prison. I thought it was a bit too generic, too predictable, so it's just concrete cells and concrete rooms. Um, didn't have that kind of lived-in texture that the other levels had. The other levels, you had this feeling that the people were running around in this place until very recently, and they just all abandoned it instantly. Coffee still being hot, and files lying around, and windows open, and things of that nature. The prison felt like it had been abandoned, that it was a derelict place. So yeah, I think the prison, and it's overly long as well. I thought the prison was forced. It's something you get through. So that's the good stuff. Criticisms. My main criticism is actually in the level design. Nothing wrong with the levels per se, but the overriding philosophy of the level design. In the original game, they basically took a blueprint of a building, recreated it. Some doors were locked, some doors were open, mostly locked, and you would just, you had free range of the building. Some parts were locked, you found a key, and you went into the next place. The new game has this formulaic pattern of, you get into a new level, like the hospital, there's a main central puzzle somewhere in the middle of the map, and you've got 3 or 4 different circuits that you have to go through, usually fighting your way through to get to a sub-puzzle, which you get a key or a clue or a knick-knack or this or the whatever. Then you almost teleport back to the center of the building again via a door that was locked that you can open from the other side, or a window you can jump through. And you do this 3 or 4 times over and over again. So you've got this series of cyclic circuits, and it just does it over and over and over again. That, I think, broke the illusion a little bit, because to me, you felt as if you were being shepherded through a system rather than just dumped in the middle of nowhere and, good luck, kid. And I think we've almost, to me, we've become hypersensitive to level design, because that's one way in which we work out what to do. The developers are leading you here, they're presenting you, they want you to go this way. Classic example is that yellow tape thing, where if something is a yellow tape or a white tape or whatever, that's a sign that you're supposed to interact with it. That kind of thing. So that kind of took the isolation and chaos out of it for me. In terms of the game being scary, it was very atmospheric. Very, very atmospheric. The scariest thing was those fucking mannequin monsters. Because I would creep into a room, looking around it as best as I could, but those damn critters were in the corner, and they'd fly out of nowhere, beat the shit out of you, and by the time you recovered, you're half dead, and you've now got to waste more health. And also the other thing I liked, I played on normal. It was a real sense of classic survival horror, in that you did not have enough ammo to casually blast anything that got in your way. You had to be disciplined. You had to make hard choices about who you fought and who you didn't, knowing that you got boss fights coming up, and you can't go into a boss fight with like 6 handgun rounds and nothing else. Also, getting better at fighting, the melee skills and the dodge button, recognizing that the enemies have set patterns, dodging, making use of their wind-ups and counter-attacking and so forth. Yeah. That's really my main gripe is the level design. It was just too conveyor belt-like compared to the original, where you really have a sense that you're just walking around aimlessly. There is no circuit. There is no system for you to be carried along by. You were just left to get on with it. But I think that's a feature of modern gaming. Very, very smooth, very non-intrusive, but it's a different mentality compared to the original. Anything else? Yeah, a little minor quip I missed was that the transition from the Mist reality to the Rust reality was a little too subtle. I was expecting the big fanfare of the sirens, and they're like, oh no, it's changing. But it was more like you would just go through a room and come out the other end, and suddenly, it's all rusted. Um, I like that the change with the hotel where the the rust Silent Hill is like a decay that's spreading. Um, and the sort of burnt out ruins that the very final remains, the last level of uh, the hotel gives you, where there's holes in the floor and all sorts. So that was something that was interesting. On my first go, I got the Leave ending, which I'm very proud of, because that, I think, is probably the most optimistic ending you can get. Speaking of attempts, I've only done the game once. And this is a very strange thing for me, because if a game is good, and it is a good game, I play it over and over again. With this game, I have this strange sense of satisfaction with only playing the game once. I don't know what it is. It's a demanding game. It's not tedious. It's not overly difficult. But it's an ordeal, and I don't feel ready to do it again. I don't know what that means. It's a weird sensation. It's I think when Silent Hill wants me back, it'll tell me. That's the way I think about it. So that's an odd thing. What else have I got to talk about? Oh yeah, the voice acting, I think, was spot on. I think that some of the best voice acting we've seen in a long time, particularly with the actor who played James. Again, they took the original script, developed it, put a few more lines here and there, took bits out. What else? I think it's about it. A very good game, and it exceeded my expectations. So see what anyone else thinks, and we'll take it from there. Thanks a lot. Over and out.